So before the conference, we had shared a message on the renewed man. It's posted on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. Do you remember that? Ephesians 2, God took the Gentile and Jew. There was a wall. Ephesians 2, He tore down the wall. Did He leave them Gentile and Jew?
No.
No, He made what?
New man.
One new man. Woman is included. One new woman, one new man. It's all one thing. So one new man. Why is that so pivotal? What was the issue there? In February, we spent the entire month talking about the promises of God. Y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. The promises of God. And then we saw in 1 Corinthians 2, I'm going fast. Y'all can do this. 1 Corinthians 2 said the natural man can receive what? Nothing. The natural man can receive nothing, but Ephesians 1:3 said God and Jesus has blessed us with every spiritual blessing. So I'm like, what are you praying for? What are you fasting for? What are you chasing ministers down for? If Jesus had given you every spiritual blessing. I mean, really, think about it. What are you doing with God if God had given you everything already? What is your relationship look like? So I said, what was it? The man is made of spirit, soul, and body, right? Mm-hmm. So what is it that is most tied to God? What really sees these blessings? The spirit man. These are just sermons from last time. I know we're rolling through things. So when you are born again, you are born a spirit again. Your spirit was born again. Adam sinned. God told him he would die. He's still walking around talking. So his body wasn't dead. He still had emotions. He was afraid of God. That meant the emotions were there. But his spirit had died. He didn't even know it. So the blessings of God had just disconnected. All of us that have come to Jesus Christ are now born again. So you are now tied back to the spiritual blessings of God. But there was a challenge. Remember that? What was the problem? What did we learn from the last sermon? I gave you 3 elements. What makes a new man? Age. Wisdom. Strength. Again, age, wisdom, strength. What is age? Jesus was met by Nicodemus at night. Remember? John 3. He goes, Master, we know you're from God because no one could do these miracles and signs unless God was working with them. Jesus doesn't ask him about impartations, spiritual anointing, funny-looking clots, and smelly stuff. He just says, you must be born again. Why? Because when the Spirit is revived, all that power, all the blessing, all the anointing comes right back where it belongs. Do you follow that? But who's born an adult? Nobody, right? So we talked about that. I caught y'all up, and again, if that was a lot, the sermon's posted. It's all there. It's on YouTube. You said, Michael, I didn't understand. Watch the sermon. It's there. It's called The Renewed Man. Look at it again. It's on YouTube. So we're going to pick up from there. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time about age, but do you remember the young King Solomon? Right? 1 Kings 3. He was David's son. He inherited everything from God. Matter of fact, his kingdom was at the max peak. It would only grow. And he prayed, God, I'm only a child. This is a grown man, a king. In 1 Kings 3, he said, I'm only a child, or some translations say a baby. You must give me wisdom. So we're going to talk about that today. Wisdom allowed God's people to step into the royalty they desired, or actually inherited. Did you catch that? Wisdom allows God's people to walk in the royal calling of Jesus Christ. He is King of Kings. King of who? Kings. Who are you? Think about it, friends. Lord of Lords. Are we talking about the world? God's not the God of the dead. God's God of the living. So here we are, people of God who are maybe, I'm going to say this lovingly, children at heart. You remember Corinthians? He said milk is reserved for babies. Corinthians 2. Meat is reserved for those who are spiritually mature. He's not writing the daycare in that church. He's writing Corinthians, the church. 1 Corinthians 2 and 3, again from last time. He said there are people who are very young spiritually. He said, I can't teach you anything extreme because that's meat that's reserved for an adult. So I'm not here to beat you up, but I here want to talk about wisdom. Why? A young king named Solomon said what? Give me wisdom. That's our topic today. Y'all ready? I know we took a week off, so I'm like, I gotta roll back and let's do it together. I don't like leaving anybody out. Y'all doing okay? Good? Everybody okay? So that was a lot. Thank you for bearing with me, but y'all can do it. How many of you guys remember James chapter 1, verse 5? Let's put it together and start with this. James chapter 1. Let's see about God. What does God think about wisdom? How many? Any of you. If any of you, if the youngest to the oldest, any of you lacks wisdom, what's the response? Let him. Who's supposed to ask? Thank you. Y'all are easy, man. That's why home course easy. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask, who, God being the who, gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given him. Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. We can roll it up. Let's go. Okay. God would give you wisdom freely, liberally. Without reproach means there's no string. There's not those little commercials on cell phones where they have the little tiny font. He talks really fast at the end. Like, blah, blah, blah. He just said, I'll give it to you without any reservation. Isn't that amazing? So does God's perspective on wisdom means that all of you should be? Thank you. If you were not wise, it's because you have not asked. So does God want a bunch of children in church? No. There you go. You got it. God did never desire a daycare for church. I'm not saying you can't start. Everybody starts born again. Let's not lie to ourselves. We all start young, but He desired that all of you would grow into mature people of God. So it's a personal responsibility. Here's our first problem. Anybody prayed like that? It felt like the answer didn't come? What do? God, give me wisdom. Nothing changes. What happened? So the question first is, what is wisdom? What is wisdom? I want you to do your best. If you miss this next point, the next 30 minutes or so may be fluff. I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. There's 2 words I want you to learn, and I want you to forget. If I ask you next week, and I ask you that in a sermon, what's the difference? If you don't answer, it's your fault. You've got to listen. Wisdom, knowledge are not the same word. Wisdom and knowledge. What you asked for was knowledge. Like God's asking about wisdom, so I'm going to teach you the difference. You must remember this. If I know Mark, that means I heard of him. I know his name is Mark. That means knowledge. I just know his name is Mark. Right? I can say I've heard of Jesus Christ. I know the name Jesus. It just means I know something. I know these doors are black. It's just a fact. A factual information. Just a thought. Does it make sense? Wisdom means I have an understanding. It means I have loosely a high IQ. I can break something down. I can tell you about Mark. I can tell you why that door is black. I can tell you who Jesus is, the Son of God, the risen one, the Redeemer of my own sin. Do you follow the difference yet? Yeah. Do you want to keep going? I know that's a chair. Wisdom says I know what it is to sit on a chair. Right? I know what that feels like. I've handled it. I've picked it up. It allows me to understand what a chair does. Knowledge is just, yeah, that's a chair. You ever sat on one? No, I never have. You've got to do it this one more time. If any of you lacks wisdom, He says He will give you a brain to understand God's Word. He will not give you the answer key to your problem. Did you see the difference now? I want everybody to get it. No, I know some of you are not. No one's skipping this question. I say, God, I have a problem. God says, ask me, I got wisdom. I don't feel any different at all. Wisdom allows me to understand what God tells me to do. He does not just give me the answer. Hey, go marry her. Go marry him. Go take this job. Everybody prays like that, right? Let's go do this. Let's go do it. Where do we go next? I'll pray about it. Do I sing this song? Do I pray about that? Do I take this school offer? He's not going to tell you A, C, F, go here, marry her, talk to him, don't do this ministry. He gives you wisdom, which allows you to understand what's a good decision, what's a bad decision, what's right, and what's wrong. Did you follow that? And then you make the decision. That's wisdom. It is not what you probably thought. What do I do now? Well, God said pray for wisdom. I'm praying. Nothing's changing. I'm still frustrated. And then you get mad. What, God? I prayed. I wake up with the same problem. He would have given you the wisdom. You'd have sat on it. Why do I know that? It says He gives it freely. He'll make you smart. He will give you the understanding. But if you don't follow the understanding, what's going to change? Nothing. Does that make sense? I hope that was extremely important. And I hope that made sense to you, because we're going to talk about wisdom and what wisdom can do for you. Because once you ask for wisdom and nothing changes, I would say you didn't know what to do with it. I'm going to show you how wisdom operates so that you begin to walk in wisdom. It'll be okay. I know I took a lot of time there, but it's so important you understand. Knowledge is like, God, which car do I buy? God's like, buy the Accord. That's a good choice. Not going to go wrong. I'm waiting for that check from McDonald's and Honda. It's okay. It's already done too, but whatever. He won't tell you, right? And people will just, I'm going to go to a prophet. I hope he gives me the answer. It's not that way. He will give you wisdom. He will give you wisdom. So what is wisdom? We got that clear. Let's talk about wisdom at a deeper level. James chapter 3, verse 5. Next 2 chapters over, same verse. James chapter 3, verse 5 and verse 7. I'm sorry, 15. I apologize. James chapter 3, verse 15. 15. There's two kinds of wisdom. Wisdom that does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. And then verse 17, conversely, is wisdom that comes from above. There is wisdom on this world. There are people who are very wickedly smart. I hate to tell you. There are people in this world who are extremely wise and know a lot of things, but nothing about God. Did you follow that? Yes. And so when you begin to pursue advice, counsel, you pursue wisdom, it doesn't mean they don't have wisdom. In James 3:15, it just says that's not a good wisdom. Your friend says, man, I wonder if you should go out with her. He's like, oh, dude, she's hot. Let's go. Well, that was wisdom, right? I mean, let's go. You pursue the girl, right? We should. But your friend there may be a fool. Remember Solomon's son, Rehoboam? He had an opportunity to turn the kingdom back to the hearts of David. And Jeroboam said, if you just lighten the load, what? We'll serve you all the days of our life. And Rehoboam's young friend said, remember he said, my pinky's water my dad's waist. It's a big finger. Anyways, so it didn't go well. Age doesn't always help, but wisdom can come from the depths below and the depths above. You say, Michael, that makes sense. You ever been really angry and start thinking bad thoughts? No. Everybody's like, no. Get away from him, the lightning's coming. It's funny how your brain wants to revert to dark wisdom when there's a challenge. And God will start pulling you towards wise wisdom when there's a challenge. But why do people fail on wise wisdom? They were expecting what? An answer. It doesn't work that way. He'll turn your mind to think purely. He'll turn your mind to think peaceably, gently, willing to yield, love and fruit and mercy. That's what your brain will turn when you ask for wisdom. It won't be, oh, well, my boss is going to start doing what I want. She'll start listening to me. He'll start listening to me. My car will start working suddenly again. I know how to fix my battery. It's not like that. It turns your mind to begin to believe that God's word is good, as our friend said earlier. Dark wisdom makes you think, I better take this into my own hands. God's not working. I'll find a way to do this. You follow? That's why I said, you don't understand the difference between wisdom and knowledge? This won't help you. But if you can understand that, I'm just talking about your brain, your thoughts, the way you think about God, the way you work with God. You'll begin to wait a minute, I have a dark moment. Why am I feeling so much anger, so much rage? Why am I starting to pull away? That's not wisdom from God. That's dark wisdom. Sensual, demonic, earthly. You say, James 1:5, let him ask of God, he'll give it freely. Suddenly you start going, okay, what do I do next? I'm beginning to go back to God. He will guide me. So that's the easy way. Let's make it complicated. Y'all ready? Let's make this complicated. I want to show you 3 things that wisdom does that I don't believe the church is taking hold of. That was a big thing to say, but I'll say it again. I'm going to show you what wisdom does that I don't believe the church has taken hold of. Otherwise, it wouldn't look like this. Let's do it together. Let's plug into wisdom, because I believe that God can give you wisdom. First of all, you have to ask yourself this question. Can an engineering degree make me a doctor? Probably not. You wouldn't come to my practice. Would you? I'm a cardiologist. Let me see how it works. Oh, what's that? I didn't know that was there. Patch you up. Do you want to go, right? Mm-hmm. But can God's wisdom make me do anything? Yeah. That's the question. I want you to think that. It was a simple question, but you got to believe it. If you don't have faith to believe that, it's going to be hard to do this list. I'm going to ask you a question again. If I'm a mechanic. Nothing wrong with auto mechanics. God bless us, guys. We need auto mechanics. But if he says, look, I want to build you a house, he'd be like, I don't know if that relates. Is that the same? But can God's wisdom give you understanding in everything? Yes. So there's the wisdom of this world, which is limited to its own self. I'm not saying it's wrong, right? God's wisdom has a potential that is unlimited. The world's potential wisdom is only for what it can do for itself. Is that okay? Yeah. God's wisdom serves others. Earthly wisdom serves itself. It only does what its purpose is. So I'm going to show you how God's wisdom works. The first thing I want to tell you, God's wisdom can promote you. God's wisdom can and will promote you. Now, it's up to you to decide if you want to believe that. If you don't believe that, it's okay. But if you believe that God would give me freedom, liberally, the wisdom to be promoted, now I'm showing you how to do it. We all know the story of Joseph. So I'm going to just reference Genesis chapter 41. I want you to just reference Genesis chapter 41. If you want to write down the story of Joseph, it starts in Genesis 37 and rolls all the way to the end of Genesis 50. Again, we're talking about Joseph, the son of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? 12 tribes of Israel. And we're going to start with Joseph looking at chapter 41. And at this point, Pharaoh had two dreams. Remember that. I'm going to talk about this story, but you reference that. Pharaoh had two dreams, and no one could what? Interpret these dreams. And he was stuck. Remember, it was the bad cows, or the skinny cows, and the bad wheat, right? So they said, hey, there's a man over here in prison. And they bring Joseph. He cleans him up. He interprets his dreams. Y'all follow that? Everybody remember that story? Let's stop. Let's pick up. Genesis chapter 41, verse 33. Now, Joseph is speaking. He just interpreted two dreams. He was going to go back to prison, was he not? Well, go back to jail, dude, thanks. He's an immigrant, basically, no offense. I'm just saying, for the Egyptians, that was a Jew. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and what? Wise man, and send him over the land of Egypt. And he continues to speak. Says, let Pharaoh do this and let him appoint officers. And he goes into a lot of detail. Just write down verse 33 through verse 37. So he gives him a plan. And says, let Pharaoh select a wise man to manage the nation's resources. Verse 37 and 38, if you don't mind jumping down. Same passage. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? I want you to remember that. A man in whom is the Spirit of God. Now keep reading verse 39 through 41. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, who gave Joseph the wisdom? God. There is no one as discerning as wise as you. Hold that thought. We can't miss this. Joseph says to Pharaoh, the king of the land, you need a wise man. What's about to result? What did I say wisdom does? Promotion. It's a promotion. This Pharaoh says that wisdom came not from you, but from God, who gives to all, come on, verse James 1:5, to all liberally and without reproach. So there's now no one like you in my land. You're the wise one. So inasmuch as God has given you this wisdom, verse 40, I will do what? You shall be over, here's the promotion, you shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to you, your word. Only regard to the throne will I be greater than you. Look at verse 41. Here's a promotion as good as it gets. See, I have promoted you. I set you over this land. How many understood I just said that? Is wisdom powerful? Yeah. It's a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. God in Christ Jesus has blessed us with every spiritual blessing. Ephesians 1:3. Every spiritual blessing. Wisdom is a spiritual blessing. He didn't say, oh, what school did you go to? Oh, you went to Rice and I went to U of H. That makes you so smart. It does. But it may not be the best. My poor alma mater. My deal is this. My God can promote me through His wisdom in a way that doesn't relate. What does Joseph know about Egypt? Remember I said earlier? I asked you a simple question. You can be an engineer like me. Doesn't really make you a good doctor. But God can make you wise enough to run a nation, to run a company, to run a school, to run a church. People ask me, where's your background? It's real simple. I got it from Him. He made me wise. He can make you wise. I said, this church is about to have a shift. You must recognize I'm only giving you the keys to turn this thing on, to make it work. Wisdom will operate in a way that goes beyond you. Does that make sense?
No.
Did Joseph ever go back to that prison?
No.
No one wants to go back to prison. No, ain't nobody want to go back to prison. But this is a key. This wisdom allowed him to step into that. Was his good looks? It said Joseph was good looking, right? Women are like, I know that verse. He was a good looking man, wasn't he?
Yes.
But he was an immigrant too. It was working against him. They used him as a slave. He just came out of prison. None of that mattered. Do you remember I talked about the winning thought this morning? I said, what are you using to qualify yourself? Is it your height, your size, your strength, your looks, your wisdom? I'm sorry. Whatever it is, but really, what does it come down to? Are you going to measure yourself according to the rich? Or are you going to measure yourself according to God's counsel? His metric is wisdom. What did wisdom do for Joseph? It just promoted him. Okay? Good? Good. I'll give you another story. Y'all remember Daniel chapter 1. Daniel, he had 3 friends. Remember Daniel and the friends?
Yeah.
Were they also immigrants?
Yeah.
Yes, they were also slaves, captives of Jerusalem brought to Babylon. What does the king do in chapter 1? He holds a beauty pageant / spelling bee, which we run. And then, of course, this contest. It was an intellectual contest, a history contest. And they run this contest to see who would be promoted to serve with the king of Babylon. Do y'all follow the story?
Yeah.
Do you see in that context? He holds a contest for a bunch of commoners, regular people, to be allowed to stand in the innermost courts of his kingdom. I hope you're thinking deeper than what I just said. I'm not talking about Babylon, friends. He holds a contest to see which believers will step back from the back wall and come up front and stand with God. You have to think deeper. Let's look at verse 18 through 20. Daniel chapter 1, 18 through 20. Just keep this thought going. We have a lot to do today. Now, at the end of the day, this contest, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them, Daniel and his 3 friends, before Nebuchadnezzar, the king. Then the king interviewed them, and among all of them, none was found like Daniel and his friends. Therefore, they received the promotion. Is that not true? Right? It continues in verse 20. In all the matters of what? Wisdom and understanding, the king examined them and found, look at this. That's amazing. 10 times better than the adults. I don't know if you caught that. These children are smarter than the adults. What did I say? Age is not physical, friends. Age is not a physical thing. He examined. Can you imagine coming before the king of the world at that time? Would that be nerve-wracking? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like, God is king, but at that time, Babylon would have been like the empire strength. You come before him, you can say one wrong thing, they just take your head. So you come before him and say, man, you are smarter than my own crew. Now, how did that happen? Would y'all read verse 117? And you want to take a big red pen. And I want you to circle verse 17, Daniel 1:17. It says, as for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. Just forget the Bible. We're not talking about dreams. Was this about dreams? No. God gave them wisdom. What did James 1:5 say? God will give you wisdom to anyone who asks for it. Did it promote them?
Yes.
Do you see how crazy powerful wisdom is? That way if your CEO talks to you, you're a little nervous, but suddenly you have an answer that you don't even know where you came up. You don't even have to have all the details. You don't have to be knowing. I'm an engineer. What are you doing on the finance side? It's real simple. God made me wise. That's all it is. If you're maybe a teacher and you bring Brian to another level, somebody brings you another level. If you have that opportunity and you say, God, give me wisdom to speak about this, suddenly your position shifts and God allows you to step into a place that's completely different. It's very important to understand the power of wisdom. Now I can keep going, but for time's sake, I want to shift gears so you don't mind. That was God-given wisdom which promotes you. Okay? Y'all following this? Now remember, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Did it say suddenly that just by God's prayer that Daniel knew something about Babylon? No. But he became wise to understand Babylon. Do you follow that? He didn't pray and God say, show me what Babylon does for a living. He doesn't know. He just was given the understanding. So that when the king asked him questions, he would have an answer for him. When you were put on the spot, you would be able to respond in like manner. All right. The second thing wisdom does is it protects you. Wisdom has a way of protecting you when even you may not be ready for it. Wisdom absolutely will protect you. In the second chapter of Daniel, the king has a dream. And he calls all the astrologers and magicians and all these guys. He says, hey, I had a dream. Tell me what it is, right? And what happens? He said, well, just tell us the dream. I'll tell me the dream. I'll tell you all about it, right? They said, no. You're buying time, dude. You tell me the dream, I believe you gave me the answer. And the king's like, oh, just tell us the dream. He's like, dude, that's not of us. Now, I'm not getting a dream interpretation here. Did they answer the dream, those guys? No. Okay, now listen carefully. What does the king do? He throws out a death sentence, right? Starts killing them. Does he start killing them? Oh, it says he starts killing them. Daniel chapter 2, verse 12 through 16. Daniel 2, 12 through 16. Let's read together. Now, you understand, this guy is not normal when you start killing people because they didn't tell you his dream. I mean, that's kind of weird. But, okay, let's read. For this reason, the king was angry and furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men. Was that including Daniel? Yes. Was it 3 friends? Yes. So the decree went out and they began killing the wise men. This started. And they sought Daniel and his companions to what? Now, how are you going to get out of this? The anointing cloth. Just hold it over my head. I hope it doesn't work. It didn't work. All right. So it's anointing. No. Verse 14. Then, read this with me. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch. Now you have to understand by context, clearly this man was in on the murder plan. Can you imagine you're in your room praying. You hear the rustling of an army at the door. They come through that door saying, we're here to take you. You already know. They've already come with a command to remove you. What saved you from this? Wisdom. He said, why is this so urgent? And Arioch even told them. They didn't really know. Because think, if you had told your wise men, hey, I'm removing you, you're all fired. Get my resume fired up, Indeed.com. I'm on it. But yet you somehow knew there's a problem with your company. You knew there's a problem with this situation. You knew there's a prayer need. You knew there was something happening in that family. And he said, guys, there's something bothering you. Daniel, before he understands, says, wisdom tells me, hey, is there a problem? What's going on? And Arioch says, what? Remember the story? It very specifically says, in verse 16, so Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might give him time to tell them the interpretation. You follow the story now. So he asked Arioch, what's the problem? Arioch, the captain, said the king had a dream, and no one could tell him, so he's removing everybody. Daniel went straight to the king in wisdom and said, I can do it for you. So this is about dream interpretation? No. Am I telling you that somehow you can tell people dreams to have wisdom? No. I'm telling you that when you're put on the spot, wisdom will give you insight on how to address the situation before it's too late. James 1:5, guys. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God who gives freely and liberally without reproach. I hope you remember that verse. Did I do it right? You sure? Good.
Busy typing.
You want one more story about how wisdom works for protection?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I mean, I can cut it short. It's all right. You remember the man Moses? We just learned about him over the weekend, right? Moses and Joshua. Was Moses a protector of his people?
Yeah.
He was a shepherd. What does a shepherd do? A shepherd watches his flock. He was a protector, true? Read Numbers 27, verse 15 through 18. If you have any desire for ministry, you should read this with me. Then Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, send a man over the congregation, who may go out before them and go in before them, who may lead them in and out, as a shepherd would. The congregation may not be like sheep which have no shepherd. And the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua the son of Nun with you, a man in whom the Spirit, and lay your hand on him. So what's the story? God had told Moses, you won't cross over the promised land, because he did not hallow him when he took the rock and struck it, as opposed to speaking to the rock, saying, let water come out. Ringing a bell?
Yeah.
So Moses said, man, this is a big nation, it's like 1 million plus, don't let them wander around. You've seen the performance up till now? Not so good. So we got to have somebody who can take the grenade. So Moses says, bring somebody else. God says, bring me Joshua. So what does God do? He says what? Lay your hand. What happened? What happened is the question. I'm not expecting you to know. I just want you to think critically. What was so important about this hand that was laid on Joshua to protect the millions of God's people? I will give you the answer. It's Deuteronomy 34:9. I want you to just think about this if you ever have any desire to serve God, to take care of His people. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So that's kind of important, isn't it? Joshua was what? Full. Not full of it. You got it, Joshua. I didn't trust you anyways. His name is Joshua. Joshua was full of God's wisdom because Moses had touched him. Isn't that amazing? What did God say? When Moses asked God, bring me a protector. And God said, well, get Joshua. Did that qualify him? No. What qualified him? When he received wisdom. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives it freely and without reproach, liberally. And following this, God's wisdom is a very powerful gift that He gives freely to every believer. Good. I hope this makes sense. Do you remember Isaiah 11, verse 1? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, the Spirit of wisdom, counsel, knowledge, understanding, strength, fear of the Lord, Spirit of the Lord. The 7 spirits of God upon Jesus. That wasn't an accident. All right, last one. I said wisdom promotes you, wisdom protects you, and wisdom also prevents you. Wisdom will prevent you. You say, Michael, from what? The 3 W's. Wines, wants, and women. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, so what does wisdom prevent you from? What did I have y'all study last week when he said, who wants wisdom? Do you remember Solomon, this super wise man, wrote a book called Proverbs. Let's look at Proverbs 1 just to recap what Proverbs means. Is wisdom really that important? And does it prevent you? I believe it does. Let's see. Proverbs 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. We'll keep reading. To know wisdom. To know wisdom. To know wisdom and instruction. To perceive the words of understanding. To receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. To give prudence to the simple. To the young man knowledge and discretion. Discretion is a word that tells me that looks okay, but I'm not okay. He continues. A wise man will hear and increase learning. A man of understanding will attain counsel. To understand a proverb, enigma, the words of the wise and riddles. And he continues on and on and on about what wisdom does for you. If you read the book of Proverbs very carefully, it will tell you to avoid bad debts, to avoid bad friends, to avoid lust, to avoid idolatry, to avoid riches that blind your mind, to avoid bribery. Do y'all follow that?
Yes.
So was that all wisdom? Was that the way the book started? Proverbs is centered around the spirit of wisdom. If you read Proverbs 1 through 7, the first 7 chapters, it's all about the spirit of wisdom. Matter of fact, it says wisdom starts talking. Wisdom calls aloud. Wisdom draws. Where are the young men? Come to me, I will give it to you. He personifies wisdom as a person. It's the spirit of wisdom. And wisdom opens its doors to you. In the book of Proverbs, it says, if you don't have me, you need me. Is that okay? It's so important to understand wisdom. Wisdom is the one that will promote you. Wisdom will protect you. Wisdom will prevent you from getting caught up in the standards of this world. When the world says, oh, you're not this. Oh, you're not that. Oh, I should be like this. I should be like that. I should wear this. I should do that. Wisdom says, I don't need to be like that. It doesn't matter. Remember the elements of the strong man? What were the elements? To become a renewed man in strength. First, you acknowledge that there's an age. Right? Then you gain wisdom. What does wisdom do? It makes you strong. Read Proverbs 24:5. Solomon knew that. Proverbs 24:5 says this. The wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. A wise man is strong. You know what else Solomon wrote after Proverbs? Ecclesiastes. Then open to chapter 7, verse 19. Ecclesiastes 7:19. See, Solomon didn't figure this out. Wisdom strengthens the wise more than 10 rulers of the city. I want you to reread that verse with the understanding of the kingdom. Because we're all parts of the kingdom, which means we represent our own squad sector, our own area. Wisdom strengthens you more than a ruler, even 10 of that city. Wisdom gives you strength. If you want to be strong in spirit, you should be one who is wise. Can we close with Proverbs 4, verse 1 through 9? Because some of you guys probably won't read Proverbs, so we'll just do it together. I should go. Proverbs 4, 1 through 9. Let's read it together, and we'll close this out. Where did we start when you're born again? We're all children, right? Babies, infants, toddlers, whatever. Hear, my children. This is wisdom crying to you. Wisdom speaking to you, not me. This is God. Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Do not forsake my law. Verse 3 and 4, it says, when I was my father's son, tender the only one of the son of my mother, he also taught me and said to me, let your heart retain my words, keep my commands and live. Now watch this, verse 5. Get wisdom, exclamation point. You know, back then, God may not have given it freely. It was the Old Testament. Only certain people, guys are like, man, you guys got to chase this. Get understanding. Don't forget. Don't turn away from the words of my mouth. Don't forsake her. She will do what? What did I say wisdom does? Protects you. It will also keep you. Same thing. Keep you alive. Does it not? Keep going. Verse 7. Wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And all you're getting, get the understanding. Exalt her and she will promote. And bring you honor when you... Isn't that nice? Isn't that funny? We talked about Joseph and Daniel. We talked about the protection of wisdom. And Solomon said that's exactly what it does. Last verse. Verse 9. She will place on your head an ornament of grace, a crown of glory she will deliver to you. This is what God gives freely. I'm going to stop here, but I want to ask you a simple question. I said, and I try to be respectful, if the church understood the concept I presented today, would it look the same? I'm going to leave it rhetorically. I started that question, right? I said, I'm going to share something this morning that I don't think the church gets. And if they got it, would it really look the same? Having heard what you just heard, I don't know. It's my opinion. I'll leave my opinions out. But I believe Proverbs is a very powerful thing. I'm telling you, friends, we should always ask for wisdom. It will honor us. Can we stand together, friends?